Okay, so I'm Syed Yasir Ahmed, the WASH lead from International Medical Corps. I'm welcoming you to an engaging discussion representing the WASH consortium funded by the European Union. WOM's mission is to minimize the environmental impact of humanitarian operations by creating guidelines and supporting circular economy. It addresses the waste management and promotes sustainability in two different areas, which is looking into the field hospital deployments and livelihood programs involving the waste picking component. Today, we aim to look into the waste management practices in field hospitals operated by emergency medical teams. This workshop has gathered numerous national and INGO participants, so each bringing around decades of experience. For example, we have Jorge from EMT, CSE, and others. Your contributions will be significantly enhance our discussion. So it is very much, we are very thankful to you all for joining this important discussion as being highlighted by the others also. Next slide, please. So, WOM is hosting this webinar to gather your insights on importance of waste management, including its significance in health facilities. We will explore how to integrate the waste hierarchy into emergency medical teams and field hospital operations. The discussion will also cover various waste management strategies used by EMTs and field hospitals during emergency responses, such as use, reuse, maintenance, repair, repurposing, recycling, refurbishment, reverse logistics, and handover. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to give you some of to set the screen, I'm going to give you some very basic key facts. About 85% of healthcare waste is non-hazardous, while 15% is hazardous, as we have just been discussing, including infectious, toxic, or radioactive materials. Globally, 16 billion injections are being administered, but these needles and syringes are not disposed of properly. Open burning and incineration of waste can release harmful substances like dioxins and particulate matter. Implementing the safe management measures for healthcare safe waste can reduce negative health and environmental impacts. Next slide, please. So, what is the importance of the healthcare facility waste management? Reduces the community exposures to multiple drug resistance bacteria, assists in controlling hospital acquired infections by improving the proactive efforts of effective hand hygiene. Looking into stops the repackaging and selling of the contaminated needles, disrupts the cycle of recurring infections. Looking into dramatically lowers the transmission of rates of HIV, AIDS, and hepatitis due to the contaminated needles and improperly disposed of medical products. Next slide, please. Now I will be handing it over to Ville from Finnish Red Cross to walk us through the objectives of the medical waste management. Over to you, Ville.
Thank you, Yasser. So, my name is Ville Juusala. I'm working for the Finnish Red Cross Logistics Center in Tampere. And yeah, about the objectives of medical waste management, it is quite clearly it's a healthcare and like health and safety issue first and foremost foremost for the workers and patients, but it also does have these like environmental but also economical aspects to the process itself. And it doesn't happen automatically. We do always have to realize that we do have to train our personnel according to the appropriate procedures, because if you, for example, misplace a contaminated item into a wrong bin in the beginning of the segregation process, that can become, a dangerous hazard down the line when the waste is then processed. And yeah, another objective is, of course, the reduction of waste and segregation at the source already, which is the way of the world nowadays. It always didn't used to be that way. Back in the day, we used to just put all the waste into one bin and then it would disappear magically out of sight, out of mind, and then maybe segregated and separated elsewhere later on. But that's not very effective, and the whole world has then moved on to this philosophy of reducing and segregating the waste at the source already. So at home, at offices, or in this instance, it transfers over to the field hospital concept. And then finally, another objective of medical waste management is to ensure the compliance with international standards and regulations, of which the ongoing EMT process is quite an important talking point nowadays. So next slide, please. Yeah, I will try to run through the process diagram quite quickly without taking too much of time. But I want to say that if we think of waste management as a process, I think the word process itself already implies that it includes many different steps. And those steps, they serve a purpose on their own and they affect one another. And the reason, as mentioned, is first and foremost a health and safety issue, but there are also these aspects of ecological and economical benefits to it. So if we think about the waste minimization at the top, so I would like to say that any good process, it starts with a good plan. So procurement planning. If we take the easy example of using reusable and biodegradable options instead of single-use traditional plastics, our environmental footprint will be lower down the line. And this is something we are quite keenly promoting in WORM, that we recognize that already before going to the field, you can make a big difference. And of course, markets dictate quite a lot what is available in terms of items. But I'm arguing, and we want to promote in WORM, that we should be smart about it and to stay on top of the markets so that we can be smart about it now and going into the future. But as we cannot avoid the waste altogether, so we do have to segregate it at the source. So we are all very used to segregating our paper and cardboard and plastic and what have you, but it doesn't happen automatically. It requires clear labeling. And again, this comes to staff training, that at the field hospital, we do have to understand that we are dealing with some infectious waste, such as blood-stained materials or needles and syringes, but also the general waste and plastics and recyclables, hopefully, as well. So yeah, and then when it comes to the handling part, I think people are easily thinking about the PPE, the personal protective equipment, at first, but the handling is more than that as well. We should have this philosophy of, minimizing contact between the waste and the people who are dealing with the waste, which includes basically everyone in the field hospital. But the waste should be kept in secure, sealed containers to avoid any kind of spills. And should there be any kind of spills happening, we should have procedures in place to handle the cleanup as well as the potential disinfection afterwards. And when it comes to the cleanup, the collection, sorry, I want to raise the issue of scheduled pickup so that waste doesn't pile up, so that when your container is full, by that time latest, it should be changed to an empty one. And it should be ideally always done by dedicated staff. And again, minimal handling so that the waste is kept in containers and sealed off in ways that you don't come into contact excessively with the waste to allow the safe transport. And then when it comes to the transport side of things, now we're at 6 o'clock of the diagram. Most field hospitals are solving the transport issue with designated routes, so that usually you have your waste collectors coming in one way and they pick up the waste as they go and replace the full containers with empty ones. And they go out the other way, so that the waste, it doesn't go back and forth inside the hospital. It's minimizing contact with patients and any kind of caretaking areas. And record keeping, I wanted to also mention there, because you do need to know what kind of waste you are dealing with yourself, but also for the possibility that you are hiring a local contractor to deal with your waste. You need to have records of what you are producing, not only for your sake, but also for their sake. Then going into the storage, I want to mention that the waste should always be kept in a designated storage area in a secure place. So you have a roof and walls and a door that is locked, so that you can avoid, unauthorized staff from getting into the waste for any reason. And also to keep away possible, rodents, rats or cats, what may be living there at the field hospital with you, because if they get into the trash and move on somewhere else, they become potential vectors for disease spread. So that's why designated storage areas. And then moving on to 9 o'clock, so treatment part, we are usually facing either of the two options of the on-site or off-site treatment of your waste. If it's off-site, we're talking about like a external contractor, but if it's on-site, then we're talking about incineration in most cases. So you can burn off your waste to reduce it to ash. But also you can use it for sharps destruction, because the sharps are one of the most, dangerous fractions of waste that we are dealing with. So when you put a needle into a incinerator, it will disinfect it, but it will also make it less sharp and thereby less dangerous to handle. And then you can move on later on to encapsulate the sharps and then bury them into the ground, which I think is a common practice for many. Disinfection I mentioned there, because if we have contaminated waste, we can disinfect it with chemical disinfection, autoclaving or microwaving to make it again safer to deal with. Then when we come to the final disposal part, as mentioned, we do have the incineration, landfilling option and encapsulation. But as we are in WORM, we of course want to promote the idea of environmentally sound practices, which all originate with the procurement planning part already. So recycling and reusing as much as possible. And I would be happy to see these be more included in the SOPs in the future. And yeah, I think that's it for me.
Thank you. Now we will hand over the discussion on the waste hierarchy. Yomiko, please take over.
Yes, yeah, I'm sorry, I was not involved. I don't know what the slides are.
That's the slide, then the waste management hierarchy for yourself.
I didn't prepare it, and I don't know. I was not involved in this discussion, so I'm not aware of it. I'm so sorry.
No worries. Scott, please go ahead.
Hello. Hello, Yasin.
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, so at this point, we will hand over the presentation to our colleague Claire, who will take us through the waste hierarchy. This one is the hierarchy.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Claire Durham. I'm with I'm the ICRC Norcross Emergency Hospital Logistics Deployment Coordinator, which is quite a mouthful. And I'm based here in Geneva. And I will take you through, if you move to the next slide, please. Next one, I'm not, I think, keep going. Yes, here, thanks. So you're probably all familiar with the waste hierarchy. I'm sure you've all seen it applied to all waste across the world, as we've seen that 85% of the waste in a hospital, field hospital, is non-hazardous, and the 15% that is the hazardous part. We've discussed already or mentioned that this is a complex situation to deal with the waste, and a lot of the medical waste is created by the surgical, medical, laboratory and radiological activities. And we have typical examples, the sharps that have been mentioned, but anatomical or infectious waste. We've got pharmaceutical waste, so spilt or expired drugs or chemicals, pressurized containers, and radioactive waste from the laboratory, but also patients' urine and excreta that needs to be dealt with. And to set the scene, a medium-sized 100-bed hospital would produce on average 1.5 to 3 kilos of waste per patient per day across all types, including household refuge. And I think some of the challenge that we got is there's not a single universal way to deal with this, that we have to contextualize the issue. We need to abide by the local or country regulations, but also important around the social and cultural aspects, and particularly things like disposals of placenta and body parts that we have to incorporate into our work. Next slide, please. So one of the main focuses here with the WORM project is what we can do at the beginning to prevent or reduce the amount of waste. And some of this can be done through better planning and forecasting, better trying to match the supply and the demand, and trying to avoid these just in case volumes, which is a challenge particularly in an emergency setting. And also looking to see what could we do in terms of procurement and resupply in smaller, more regular volumes to reduce the amount of pharmaceuticals that expire, for example. And also reducing or preventing harmful materials. Can we select those items that are less harmful to manufacture, but also less harmful to treat and dispose of through our hospital waste management practices? Next slide, please. So where we can reuse and avoid single-use items, where we can use treatments such as chemical disinfection or heat treatments or like autoclaves to be able to then not contribute to this waste and minimize that. Next slide, please. Recycling, which I think is always, it's a big focus, but becomes a bit of the challenge in some of the contexts that we're working in. We're working in the emergency phase, we're working in conflict. If the existing infrastructure for recycling does not exist in the context we're in, how are we able to do this, and what can we do to be able to feed into a recycling process, and also some of the short-term durations of the field hospitals going out makes it hard to set some of this stuff up if it's not already in the plans and contingency plans. Next slide, please. and recovery as well, similar to the recycling. Like, how are we able to do this in the context, the low resource countries perhaps that we're working in, unless this stuff has perhaps been considered before, if we have context that we may be able to go into, and assuming if we see in a case particularly of a large natural disaster like an earthquake or in a conflict, what may still be available in country when we arrive. Next slide, please. And then disposal, the end stage, and one that I think we have a lot of in the field hospital. We've talked about incineration, the shredding, encapsulating, burial. What can we do? And linked very much with that first stage around procurement of, if when we get to this stage, how could we have made that more environmentally friendly, less harmful to the environment, if we're thinking about that from the beginning, that we are focused then on the types of practices that we are perhaps having to use in the settings that we're in. And these have the different advantages, disadvantages, and constraints. We need to think about the effectiveness. We need to think about installation and operating costs, how simple it is, particularly around training people, what space we have for this, the transport that Ville's already mentioned. Some of these things need a steady source of electricity. How do we manage that? And also proximity to an existing waste treatment site. So there are a lot of aspects that we need to be considering when we're thinking about these different steps in the hierarchy. Syed, back to you.
Thank you. Now I'm going to hand over the closeout decommissioning to Scott. Scott, please walk us through this slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Yasin. So at the end of the EMT activities, we will have to close out and we have to decommission the entire EMT. So that process is also dependent on where the EMT is located. For instance, if the EMT is not within a setting, within a hospital setting, the waste management zone must be decommissioned the WHO recommended procedures. So the process will require backfilling the entire pits, all of the pits that we have that we use for the different, like for the ash pit and for sharks and other organic waste. We'll have to decommission them. We'll have to backfill them as per the decommissioning guidelines. And then we also have to backfill all pit latrines that we use in the event the EMT is not within a hospital setting. And all of the decommissioning process has to be done as per the standards and guidelines proposed by the World Health Organization. And then we have to clean up the site properly and do with the hand, bring the site back to its original state and hand it over to the. But in the event where the EMT is within a hospital setting, then the waste zone that we will be using in this instance will be the same as the waste zone at the health facility. EMT, we only need to refurbish anything that is damaged in that waste zone, rehabilitate, make sure that the EMT operations rehabilitate and repair all of the works, including painting of the waste zone and installation of all RPC infrastructure. We have to also conduct trainings for the health facility staff on the operation and the maintenance of the waste zone. And then we have to hand over the refurbished waste zone to the hospital administration. So these are the two scenarios that we have to work in the field where it is in a location which is not a hospital setting. It was landing where we operated a few hospitals. And then if we have another situation where we have to work, the EMT have to be installed within a hospital setting. And so during that process, we have to look at the aspect of reverse logistics, because most of the time the EMT is set up for like a short period, 2 to 3 months period. And sometimes all of the items that were deployed for the EMT might not be used, especially the waste management aspect. So we have to prevent all waste management items from that are in circulation. We have to make sure that they are checked. We do an inventory before the decommissioning go on. So you could have items in storage. You could also have items in the EMT that are being used to just determine the number of those items. And after that, we have to separate the items into two different groups, one for donation and the second group to be returned to our central warehouse, depending on what the EMT operations will be looking at. And then once that is done, the list has to be presented to all partners to see where they have their interest. For instance, when we were in Haiti, all of the lists were presented to the medical list were presented to the Ministry of Health to see what the Ministry of Health would need for the operations in Akin. And then the water and sanitation material list were presented to the DINIPA team, where and all of the waste management aspects were also presented. List of items were presented to the Akin, what their interests like. And right after that, have to prepare the donation letter, working with the logistics and senior management team to ensure that the donation is done in accordance with the organization and donor procedures, as well as including government and other NGO partners. So we have to work with the logistics team to ensure that each items are folded, returned to our central warehouses for future use in the event those items are not being donated. So the aspect of the reverse logistics can sometimes be difficult because it involves transportation of items sometimes to another. And then this is where the planning process of that reverse logistics activity has to be closely done well as the senior management team of the organization. And once that is done, we now move to the group work, which is, I think, it will be the crux of this matter discussion today. So I will hand over the microphone to Yasi. This point forward. Over, Yasi.
Thank you, Scott. Now we will hand over the mic to Waqar to walk us through the exercise that we will be doing together. But before we jump into, I have the Watson from MSF has a question, so please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Yasir. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Yasir, I have one question that now we have the session in which I mentioned about the waste zone. So if we have any specific any standard that the waste zone should be how much away from the hospital, or it will be in the entire the hospital, or we can consider the waste zone from away the city area and population area. Is there any standard?
Thank you. I think that would be very much dependent on the site that you're working in, and there will be the different considerations that you have to take in account. The same goes for the incineration. Like you have to put the incinerator in a way that it's not affecting the EMT sites. But just to answer your question further, Scott, do you want to add more?
Yeah, Yasi, like you said, the waste management at the EMT has to be placed in a way that it does not affect the operations of the EMT. And then if the EMT is not that far from an established hospital, it is sometimes important to move most of the material to be incinerated to that hospital nearby. In the instance, the hospital is not funded. For instance, when we were in Haiti, the field hospital was like a few feet away from the main Akin hospital. So we were able to establish the waste management zone for the Akin hospital, where we move most of the huge incinerations. And then at the field hospital, we use the smart ash to deal with the minimum incineration so that the level of smoke does not affect the operation of the field hospital. I hope I answered the question properly.
Yeah. Thank you. Now it's clear. Yeah.
So, Waqar, please take over the walking us through the whiteboard exercise.
Why don't you stop sharing my screen?
Thank you, Yasir.
Sorry. Yeah, what card do you want to share your screen, or is this okay?
No, it's okay. It's okay. That's
Okay.
something I just want to continue. Oh, okay. Thank you. Hi everyone. So as Yasir mentioned, so that's the core kind of like activity that we have in today's workshop is the whiteboard exercise to collect some of your inputs and your insights, because you guys have been working in the field hospital in EMTs. So we would like to hear from you, and then to have your feedback collected and to be incorporated in the SOPs that we are going to be developing. So we'll be using the Miro whiteboard for this exercise. And we would like all the participants to be randomly divided into 4 breakout rooms. And then duration of this exercise is around like 50 minutes. And we would like to conclude within that time frame. We already have the group facilitator for all the 4 groups. And we'll be identifying co-facilitator from within the participant in each breakout room. Next slide, please. We'll be focusing on the key 3 areas, which is the best practices, challenges, and recommendation. And these three focus areas we will be considering for all the 4 buckets. The bucket 1 is use, reuse, maintenance, and repair. Bucket 2 is repair, repurposing, recycling, and refurbishment. And bucket 3 is reverse logistic, and bucket 4 is handover and donation management. Next slide, please. Okay. So we would like all the participants to proactively participate and then provide their inputs on the whiteboard. And then if any one of you is not able to access the whiteboard, then you can drop your inputs in the chat in breakout rooms, and then the facilitator and co-facilitator will collect that and then pitch it on your behalf on the whiteboard. So we want to do it a bit strategically because we don't want to miss any of the bucket. So that's why, for example, group 1 will start with bucket 1. That's the mandatory one for them, and then they will continue with bucket 2 and bucket 3 and bucket 4, and then like that. Group 2 will start with bucket 2. Group 3 will start with bucket 3, and group 4 will start with bucket 4. So that's the mandatory starting points for each group. And the facilitator will further guide you on how to navigate that. Now what I will do, I will just request Helen and Pamela just to share the whiteboard and just to give a quick overview to the participant how it looks like and how they're going to provide their inputs. Over to you, Pamela or Helen, any one of you.
Sorry, I'm just gonna jump in here really quickly and say that unfortunately, because our timeline ran a little bit long, we're going to keep the exercise to 40 minutes now, just so we can come back and reconvene at the end. But I'm sure that'll still be plenty of time for us to have a great discussion. Sorry. Okay, over to you, Pamela and Helen.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Waka. I'm just going to share my screen on the structure of the mirror so that everyone can be able to see how they're supposed to contribute. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes, we see it. Thank you, Helen.
Okay, so as we had said earlier, we are going to have 4 different rooms for each group. There is group 1, group 2, group 3, and group 4. So for each group, there are sticky notes here, whereby for bucket 1, you're supposed to fill in the best practices. Then there is another sticky note for the challenges and suggestions for improvement for another sticky note. So for each group, there is a prompt question that the facilitator will be prompting them so that they can be able to fill in their inputs in regards to best practices, challenges, and suggestions for improvement for each and every bucket from bucket 1 to bucket 4. So this is the structure of the whiteboard for each group. It's just a copy of the other. So for each group, each and every participant that will be allocated a different group whereby they'll be able to input their insights. So yeah, thank you. I think Waka, I have captured everything.
Yeah, thank you, Helen. So now we'll break out in the rooms, and then yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to now open the rooms. So I'll see you all there. There should be a facilitator in each room. And Margot here will, Margot, I'm just going to put on our camera. Margot here will stay in the main room in case there are issues. We're in the same room so we can communicate. And yeah, I'm just going to open the rooms now and have a great discussion, everyone. Okay.
I'm not sure what happened with the.
Come back, your sentence
It happened to
flew.
all of us.
Yeah, sorry, because I put on I put a timer on for the room, so
That's
they
okay. No, it's
so they
fine.
went off automatically. They closed automatically.
Mm.
So welcome back to the main room, everyone. I hope you had a very fruitful discussion. I think we have still some closing words from Yasir or Pam or someone. So I hand over to you. Thank you so much. We at least had a great discussion in group 3. So thank you everyone for that. And yeah, I don't know if the other facilitators want to say a quick word about what
just writing.
went on.
The meeting. Tell me.
I'm going to hand over to Pamela to walk us through the debrief session. Over to you, Pamela.
Thank you very much. I think maybe we can get each group present one bucket just to have the flavor of what came through, and our group can start with Majid to just, Majid, if you present that and just talk to bucket 2 only, and then we can give other groups to share one that they feel they worked on more. Yeah, Majid.
Sure, thank you. Hello, everyone. This is Majid from Pakistan, working currently with ICRC, and we does not have any field hospital as such in the current stage, but we do support the public hospital. So it's a combination of, previous field hospital experience and then contribution from all of our group. So basically what we looked at, it's I'll be presenting bucket 2, repair, repurposing, recycling, and refurbishment. So the best practices, it's a bit lighter to me. Yeah, please.
Yeah, expand, yeah.
Yeah. So a medical logistics as key comment to core logistic team, that like the look for equipment which is more friendly or to the context. Then like the second best practice would be that in the low resource settings, for example, in the low income countries, majority of the things in healthcare facilities are reusable. For example, linens, buckets, shower boxes, you name it. Many of the things are reusable. So then another colleague from Pakistan MSF, that there should be a committee like IPC, Infection Prevention Control Committee, to oversee these all the aspects of medical waste management, repair, refurbishment as well. The procurement, less digital and analog. This was also a debate among our colleagues that like the machines which are coming from, for example, if you bring something from Europe or US or anywhere and bring it to Pakistan, for example, an incinerator that will be installed, but it will work only unless it is supported by an external organization. But if organizations cease the operations or concluded their operations, then there will be challenges related to sustainability of technical sustainability, operational sustainability as well.
Yeah, like once the device is broken in some minor way, it may take months to actually fix again.
Exactly. Thank you for the support. And in terms of challenges, as like my colleague said, that many machines become it's more digitals, and the repair and maintenance and technology is not widely available, and it has to very few people. Lack of resources in public hospitals, like where we have a support modus operandi, to supporting the government sectors. And obviously, like we do have the limitations in funding, so we cannot support each and every aspect of waste management or, the whole supply chain of of the waste management. Trained medic staff in the health facilities also another challenge. Emptying pits. This is, we faced this challenge in one of the supported for health facility that, like we had 2 pits, organic pits, and, it was start to be used alternatively, like one will be, contaminated and decomposed and we need to re-empty it, but no one was available to, it's sort of taboo that, like who will empty it. Continuous funding fuel sources. This was also raised by me that, we had one hospital supported by incinerator repaired. We had a lot of investment in operation and maintenance upgradation of this incinerator. And for this, after this 3 months training, this subsequently it was dropped and, no one was using it because they said that we do not have the funds for fuel supply, continuous fuel supply. These are the challenges. So if we go down
Maybe
to
just
the
one or two, one or two.
Okay. Okay. Recommendations is that we use the less complicated, rather simple things which are easy and user friendly, environmental friendly, obviously. And there must be committees, made locally along with the people, the staff, and the organization or whatever is supporting that. This committee should oversee this whole process.
Yeah, thank you so much, Majid. I know
Thank
time is running out. Thank you so much for sharing that and for Comac for your leadership of the team. I think everyone contributed. We just didn't have much time.
Yeah, thank you so much, all of them.
Yes, Yasir, do you think we can do one more, or are folks ready to do 3 more minutes only to hear another flavor of different bucket? And can we have bucket 1 if you populated more, or bucket 3 or 4? Who would like to go if you feel that you did it justice? Please. And folks, don't go just so that we round up this in the next 3 minutes. So group.
I think bucket 1 was quite
ahead.
similar.
Okay.
It's a bit, well, we can summarize it in, it has to start at the top with the strategy. So we had for the reuse, maintain and repair. So we need the top-down strategy that leads into the mindset of the people. And then we can have the SOPs and the guidance for doing that. But the forecasting and the planning and the thinking about this from the beginning, having then procurement that has the mindset of thinking that we need to be able to reuse, repair, service, the whole holistic approach to that. But then we have to be able to adapt it to the context. And we really need to coordinate with others. So lessons learned and sharing best practice and collaborating. And the challenges are also the cost, cost of repairs, the local regulations, which may or may not support what we hope and plan to do. And if it's not built in from the beginning, you're not going to be able to do this. So that's kind of the summary. We've got lots of points in the whiteboard, but that's kind of the flavor of what we need to do to make that happen.
Fantastic, Claire. And all this will be captured, summarized, and presented with a report of this webinar. I like the fact that you say start with the strategy, get on to the SOPs. I would also say that perhaps we now need to make sure we have performance measurement indicators, KPIs for individuals responsible for waste management, that they can be held accountable for that in the JDs. So, Yashir, I think I'll hand over to you because we have 1 more minute to go to hit us to 5 minutes past the finishing time. And I will let you decide what you want to do with the remaining 2 buckets, or whether you'll go ahead and close. Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. I think we had very rich discussions on bucket 4, where we talked about handover, but I think looking at the time, and everybody's already past 5 minutes on the hour, I would like to say thank you very much to everybody for your very engaging discussions, and hopefully what we will do is we will put together a very clear report out of that, and then out of that it will be connecting into all the SOPs that we are going to work with, and then there are certain guidelines which will be coming out as an output of that. So please do not think that your inputs were just on a white paper. It's gonna make some difference in the future of the EMTs, hopefully. I would conclude here, and I will ask Jorge Durant from EMT Secretariat to say a word or two. Thank you.
I'm just going to also say thank you so much. Sorry to jump in here, but thank you so much on behalf of the whole WORM project. It was a really great discussion, really great workshop, despite some technical issues, but they were managed perfectly. And thank you so much. So over to you, Jorge. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Yasir, and thank you for the warm initiative to facilitate this workshop. I think it's a key topic. It's a topic that everybody, all the EMTs are struggling continuously. And I think we need to find new solutions and look for environmental friendly solutions as well. I think it's just thank you all, and I will keep informed.
Thank you, Jorge. As Scott was leading a bigger chunk of the presentation, do you want to say something? And then I'm going to hand over to anybody who wants to close this workshop. I don't want it to be IMC only. Over to you, Scott, and just hand over to a random person to close the meeting. Let's set another trend.
I just want to thank everybody for the effort and time that was put into this. It shows how best we can achieve once we work together. Thank you, Paul, and thanks for the participation. Maybe to work out.
Thank you, Scott. So you hand over to MC back. Okay. I really appreciate all the inputs that we have from all the participants. And as Yasir mentioned, those are not getting wasted. So we'll be really taking care of your inputs, and then we'll be putting that into a comprehensive report. Will be shared with you guys, and further these will be used to update the kind of SOPs that we are developing. So thank you so much for all your great insight and inputs. Thank you.
Thank you, and bye.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good
Bye.
day.
Thank you,
And
everyone.
subscribe to the WORM newsletter.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.